Muses of Mythology is a spoiler-heavy podcast.
That's an understatement.
We're going to discuss not just the events of this book, but the Rhineverse as a whole, and really anything that we feel is relevant. You can find full spoiler warnings in the show notes. That was funny. Nope, he is in New York. He'll be very offended if you suggest he is not from America. All right, I'm going to stop recording. Welcome to Muses of Mythology, a podcast where we explore how ancient myths become modern pop culture. This week, we continue our journey through Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson and the Olympians with Story 56, Antaeus. I'm your co-host and podcasting muse, Darien Smartt. Joining me is my co-host and brother, DJ.
How's everybody doing today? I am the muse of attitude. If you give me lip, I'm going to give you some tude.
I hope you have something to back up that big talk with.
Absolutely.
I guess we'll see, but first let's muse around the garden. So DJ, I was doing my taxes recently.
Yeah.
Because we live in the United States and it is tax season.
It is, in fact.
Tax companies have lobbied heavily against just the government telling me how much money I owe them or vice versa.
It's rough.
I must do all these numbers. Yep. But while doing this, I had to cram all the numbers of everything that went through our various accounts. And I realized that through Patreon, we donated $274 to various charities last year. Heck
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to share that number with our patrons, just to let them know, big thank you, and let them know what kind. I guess to all of our listeners, let them know what kind of impact they helped us make or they themselves made over the last year to the various charities. So shout out to all of our listeners and our patrons who make those donations possible.
And on that note, it is in fact a new month, Darien. Time to make a little more donations.
March is Women's History Month, so this month we are donating to the Malala Fund. This is an organization founded by Malala Yousafzai, which we shouldn't have to tell you who she is, but just in case, she is a Pakistani woman who in 2013 was the victim of a horrific shooting while en route to school because of her vocal support for girls' education. She survived that incident and continues to speak out against the obstacles and atrocities that women face around the world in just trying to get an education. The Malala Fund operates in multiple countries and delivers educational resources to women and girls in need.
This month, we currently have 11 patrons, so we'll be donating an additional 14 out of pocket to make our donation $25.
You can learn more about the Malala Fund in the link in the show notes. Thank you so much to all of our patrons for making this donation possible. And now, back to the show.
By the way, Darien, I've been thinking about it. It's Antaeus. It's not Antaeus. It's not Antaeus. It's Antaeus.
Antaeus.
Yep.
Antaeus. Well, I'm sure I will remember that the whole time and not mispronounce the name at all through the rest of the episode. Never forget. DJ, you are very well informed about this character, so what can you tell me about Antaeus in the Percy Jackson series?
So, what I remember from him is he is lurking within the labyrinth, as are so many of our villains this book. Mm-hmm. And he's positioned specifically to stop Percy. And, money has been given to him by Luke to live out this job, to fulfill this job. And he is just having a tournament in his area. He's got a nice big Colosseum-esque thing. Mm-hmm. And he's got Ethan Nakamura.
Yeah.
Battling for his life. And then Percy beats Ethan, just absolutely goads the shit out of Antaeus and brings him down, and then raises him up, funny enough, and then kills him.
Yes. One slight note, Luke didn't actually pay him. I think you're conflating Hera paying the rancher.
Maybe.
With Luke. Because Luke is actually trying to get the army past Antaeus' territory. Yep. So that's when we meet Ethan, who is trying to fight in the tournament to win the right to join Luke's army.
Yes.
Because I guess this is how they're getting their recruits. They have so many recruits now that they can just put them through a vetting process.
Yeah.
Which we really don't explore that much. How the fact that a lot of the army isn't just generic monsters, but disfranchised demigods and what have you.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's basically it. Antaeus' whole thing is he just really likes wrestling.
Very big into wrestling.
Yeah, he's got the whole arena making folks battle to the death. And then when Percy spares Ethan, because Percy's a good guy, I mean, granted, Percy wouldn't spare like a monster or anything if he was fighting like a Drachne or something, like she was going to go down. But Ethan's a demigod, so he gets to be spared. Antaeus gets pissed and comes down. He's like, all right, let's fight one-on-one. You're a son of Poseidon, so am I. That skull throne I built, that's in honor of my dad. That's why I'm his favorite. Because he is the son of Poseidon and Gaia, the earth goddess, aka Poseidon's grandmother.
Is a half giant.
Yes,
yeah.
He is a half giant.
We don't talk about family trees within the...
Don't worry about that.
Greek gods. We don't think about it.
Mm-hmm. Don't talk about it. That's not fun to think about. So, basically, it's... What Percy realizes, like you said, he lifts him up because he realizes as long as he's touching the ground, he can't be killed. Mm-hmm. Because that's his mother is literally the earth. So Percy's like, all right, I'll just get you. I think he uses ropes or chains and gets him pulled up in the air and then stabs him and just like dirt spills out of him.
Yeah, he ties him up with like all the chains that are hanging above with like corpses and shit. Mm-hmm. And he just like brings him down, grabs his arms and lifts him up. Funny enough, that's the same plan that the Seven used on Gia like 3 years later.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, and it's the exact same. We just have to get her
exact same fucking plan. She can't die when she's touching the earth. They got to bring her out of her own realm into the sky and blow her the fuck up.
But like, Percy doesn't say, I once fought one of her kids. This is what I did. Like, they have to, like, there's like a god who gives them a hint and they have to figure out on their own, even though Percy has already solved this thing.
Percy's already done this shit.
And, like, later on in Trials of Apollo has to face someone that, like, Percy has dealt with. And he does think, all right, how did Percy Jackson deal with this problem? Music, right. I think it was the birds or something. I don't remember exactly. But, like, I think Rick just forgot. I guess it doesn't matter. He's written a lot of books. You're allowed. But I hadn't thought about that. That's okay.
I just now thought of it. I'm like, wow, that's just the same plan.
It's just this exists to kill the Earth Goddess. Well. I guess one more thing in the book. Later on at the end of Battle of the Labyrinth, when Poseidon shows up for Percy's birthday party, Percy's like, hey, met another one of your kids? He had like a skull throne and said he was your favorite. And Poseidon's like, hey, we can't, the gods can't control what their children do in their names. But let me tell you, Percy, you are my favorite. Like Tyson's not in the next room.
Yeah. Love it. It's great. As if he doesn't have an actual godchild down in the ocean doing like, a lot of work right now, too. Like, doesn't have Triton down in the ocean putting in work as an actual god.
Doing so much work right now. Not like Percy's not doing work, but like, but he's like, I'm his heir. And it's like, my guy, that gods don't have heirs. Not really. It means nothing. Anyway. All right. In Greek mythology, DJ, as you always said, this guy is like part giant. In Greek mythology, he's just like a straight up giant.
Mm.
And whenever folks would be traveling through the country, he'd be like, let's wrestle. Like I was supposed to say Greco.
Pancration, bro. Let's get it, okay?
Yeah. Like this dude was full. That was his whole thing. So he challenged travelers to wrestle. And of course, he was invincible as long as he's touching the ground, which, I don't know if you know this, DJ. Wrestling is a sport in which you are often touching the ground with many parts of your body. So
yes. I just looked up pancration, which is like the form of wrestling.
Uh-huh.
It literally translates to all fours.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's what wrestling is. Shout out to our brother Johnny, who was in wrestling in middle school and high school. I still remember the distinct smell of the
very distinct
school
smell.
Gyms when a wrestling match is going on.
Very, very distinct smell. And they had a specific wrestle room that always smelled like it.
Always, it was like not even just like sweat, although it was. I think it was also the smell of the mats.
Yeah.
Had a
it was
distinct
the sweat getting soaked into the mats and it just staying.
And just youth hormones everywhere. Anyway, so this dude just killed a lot of travelers for really no reason. He was just kind of a dick until Hercules rolls up and realizing that, like, hey, man, he can't be killed as long as he's touching the ground. So Hercules just lifts him into the air and crushes him to death. Which is very cool. I'm going to give Percy more points because when he stabs a guy, he just bleeds out dirt, and I think that's visually more interesting. But, Hercules was strong boy. I don't think Percy could have crushed this man to death, so...
Sorry, I just looked at, the initial page of, when you Google Pancratian, and it's... it was a dangerous sport in which everything was permitted except biting, gouging, and attacking the genitals. And then I'm like, this is just the UFC. This is just the Greek UFC where they just beat the shit out of each other and didn't probably killed somebody every now and again, but didn't attack the eyes and bite,
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the sanction, not street fighting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's hey, no dick
funny.
Punches. That's unsportsmanlike.
No biting, gouging, which is stabbing your finger into your opponent's eye, nose, or mouth, and then attacking the genitals. And those are actually the rules for UFC as well.
Nice.
Funny.
So Antaeus is in Greek wrestling, you didn't have to kill your opponent. You just had to pin them, right? Force them to the ground. But this dude always went the extra mile and made sure they stayed pinned. Hercules actually met up with this guy when he was on his way. So he wasn't one of his labors. He was not even a side quest, honestly. He was just, Hercules is going to the garden of the Hesperians to get the golden apples. And this dude's just in his way. And that's when he deals with them. A lot of artwork from the classical period shows Hercules and Antaeus fighting, and that was cool visually. I think that we can understand why the Greeks would like this aesthetic for their artwork. Gotta talk about Ovid the Hack, who actually in his Metamorphosis book 9, he was the first author to describe Antaeus' strength as coming from being in contact with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, it was just he was good at wrestling, so Hercules picked him up and crushed him to death.
Can't wrestle if you got no leverage, bud. Here you go.
Here you go. Oh, you challenged the wrong demigod, motherfucker.
Wrong guy. Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that is all I know about Antaeus.
He's just super big into wrestling.
Really into wrestling, was a dick. Probably not surprisingly, this cat doesn't exactly appear in a lot of retellings. His appearance in Battle of the Labyrinth is pretty much his biggest thing.
Yeah, I don't have much more on him either. I probably should have played into that wrestling thing a little more, shouldn't we have?
Maybe. I don't know enough about wrestling.
I feel here's the thing. I feel Pancratian really was just the football/soccer of its time.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was saying.
Here's the thing. I mean the American football, y'all. When I say football, I mean the American football, and then soccer for all you other Europeans, okay?
I mean, you said both.
Tim O'Connor down in New Zealand. No, that's not. That's the Crystal Con, man. I get them mixed up. They both got Con in their name.
You can't just shout out.
Yeah, they also get shout out
at the episode,
at the same time.
You'll just summon them or something. Do you hear music?
A little bit.
What is that?
Speak of the fucking devil.
Oh my god.
Music.
Connor! Oh goodness. What is happening? What is this?
How did you get here?
Listen here, you jabronis. You think you know much about wrestling?
You don't know anything about wrestling, actually.
I'm taking over. This is my show now.
Oh, thank God.
Here's a highlight reel.
Oh my god. Dear listeners, we are unexpectedly joined by, is that the Crystal Con Man with a steel chair? No, that actually looks like a really comfortable,
no, mate.
good for back support kind of chair, actually.
Got a good lumbar right there in the center. It's pretty
Oh, it is a gaming chair, and I bought my old substitute before.
All right.
Like the great American hero, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So, wrestling.
Wrestling, yes.
You're going to learn today, kids.
All
yes.
right.
So, do you guys know anything about it? Aside from the Greek side of things?
Theatrics.
I would say we barely know
theatrics,
about the Greek
yes.
things. Yeah, but theatrics.
Well, yeah. I mean, wrestling's always been a core part of a lot of people's belief. I mean, thinking back to the ancient Greeks, the first thing everyone thinks of wrestling is Greco-Roman, Pan-Hellenic wrestling, which, fun fact, Plato actually was one of those people.
Yeah, doesn't his name actually reference the fact that he was good at wrestling?
God, I believe that so much.
Yeah, I mean, Greco-Roman, which is where most modern wrestling stars begin, the whole point was lift your opponent without using your legs.
Huh. Okay.
And that came to and that led into what we call pancration, which is early 648 BC, which was submission sports with boxing and wrestling techniques put together. That was the first one where, Heracles and Theseus apparently invented it in mythology, which Theseus was said to use against the Minotaur.
That makes sense.
So he's had big angry bull guy. What are you supposed to do?
The Minotaur would have been great at wrestling. Like, I don't know anything about it, but I feel like he would have been great in the ring. He would have just had that showmanship. He has the best tragic backstory, TM. Come on.
Well, I mean, he technically could relate to The Rock. I mean...
Oh, yeah?
Because I am obviously the God Patreon that recommended the Rumble for Ragnarok episode, the Ragnarok episode for DuckTales.
Yes, that was super fun. We loved that.
That was a good time.
Yes, it was. And I'm a very passionate fan of wrestling, as I'm currently wearing t-shirts, and I've got a whole heap of them that away. But if you look at the character evolution, I want to say Dewey, the Blue Duck. He played the part of Rocky Maivia, who everyone now knows as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh.
In his early days, he was the son of Rocky Maivia himself. He was Soul Man Rocky Johnson's grandson. He had a wrestling history, and he was a babyface. And he was booed. There was "Die, Rocky, die" chants. He was basically booked to be the champ popular, but no one got behind him. But the second he switched from Rocky Maivia to The Rock, everything changed. Like, it was beautiful. That's when you got the SmackDown Hotel, that it doesn't matter what you say. You saw him with the Nation of Domination, the Rock and Sock connection, and now he has the Anoa'i family dynasty, which is probably one of the biggest families in wrestling after the Kennedys, after Vincent Kennedy McMahon and the Rhodes family.
Oh, okay. So, now I'm fascinated with the concept of, because I'm familiar with, from listening to all the other things I like when they talk about wrestling, that's a heel turn, right? It's when the person goes from being like a babyface hero to like the villain, the heel. I can't imagine that always works. Like, not every person who makes a heel turn gets this kind of like beloved reaction. Like, what was it about the Rock and that twist that worked so well?
Because he really went into it. Like, take recently, this last year, we just had Logan Paul and The Miz at WrestleMania. And I despise Logan Paul as a person. Like, don't get me wrong, his creation side of things, he's a smart businessman. I don't like his content.
Settled down a lot in like recent years, at the very least.
Oh yeah, I understand. So like, ever since the whole incident with Japan,
I'm very anti Logan Paul. I think that's fine for me to say on our little podcast.
Like,
I'm not a fan of this gentleman.
Yeah, is that I was when he was a Viner.
Of course you were.
He was a Viner. He was funny. And then when Vine died, everybody went to YouTube. His content really did just kind of like, oh, I don't care. He's kind of a jackass.
Which is why I loved him at Mania, because he was there in the drip of the yellow, the Pikachu around his neck. Everyone booed him, and he was the heel. He
fits perfectly into
teaming
that role,
with The Miz, who, fun fact, is Darien's inspiration for my 2K Universe series. The actor who was once from Real World, he was an MTV star, joined Tough Enough, and became actually one of the biggest stars in wrestling, and he has always been considered to be one of the worst. But he has the mic skills that proved it. So when the final match ended, the Mysterios, who are Rey Mysterio and his son, like, you think, oh, sweet, the son and the father are going to win. But they lost because Logan Paul decided to hit the Frog Splash, and the Three Amigos, from the late great Eddie Guerrero, may he rest in peace, it came to the end. The Miz and Logan Paul standing strong. Everyone's booing. Then all of a sudden, Miz hits his skull-crushing finale on Logan Paul and leaves, and everyone's like, oh, do we cheer or do we boo? They cheered The Miz, and he's a heel. He's always been a heel. And Logan Paul is now technically a face, but because he had such an arrogant about him, he was like, no. This is a face turn for The Miz, not a heel turn not a heel turn.
Yeah, we already don't like,
That's what I loved about
Logan Paul already has some
and other heel turns,
pre-existing notions about him.
Yeah, you come in with some meta-narrative.
Yeah, he came in as the villain, but he's left the villain because him and his, like, especially Jake, like, him and his brother, they were just talking bad about it, and that really got the wrestling fans
Oh, that
angry.
makes sense, yeah.
But that's what you loved about it, because real life heat and wrestling heat went so and so together. But there's other events that, I mean, as I said, I'm going to be talking about this for quite a bit. Going from there, we've got wrestling as itself as a style, the history of kayfabe, and potentially why I love it.
Yeah.
And of course, I think I gave you guys some homework, or not?
You did,
So,
yeah. Did you?
what do you want to start with? Do you want to talk homework, or shall we?
Here's the thing: the new homework you gave us, I did not watch. The very first time we brought this up, and you told me to look up this dude. I don't remember his name, but I did look him up, and he was pretty cool. He seemed like a really cool dude, and I really wanted to look into him some more, but I just never got around to it.
Yeah, he really is probably one of the greatest of this generation, the reality era, because he's this plucky guy from Canada, moves to Japan, forms an alliance with probably one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers, Kota Ibushi. And his long-term storytelling of the Bullet Club and the betrayals, it feels like a modern day. It's a movie, like from start to finish. You know, how it's going. You look at it, it's going to end this way. But that's the story they tell. And then for Darien, I think you probably had one of the easiest homework. It's just a movie with.
I did
one
have
of the
a
girls.
movie. Yep, I did have a movie. Fighting with my family with Florence Pugh. It was lovely because I'm always happy to see Florence in anything. I have questions mostly regarding the thing with the sister, but we will circle back to that. I think I would like to talk about, if we can, that because obviously there's the Olympic sport of wrestling, right?
Freestyle wrestling.
What you see, yep. And there is the theatric, the storytelling, the kind of stunt show that is professional wrestling. Let's start in distinguishing, getting into that shift, and then a little bit about the distinction. You so easily hear, I know our mom did, especially when it started to be more televised. It's not real wrestling. It's all fake. You shouldn't watch it. So what's up? What is this? Why does anybody care?
So are movies.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
There is a good YouTube video, the short half-hour movie called "Wrestling Isn't Wrestling," that I would highly recommend your fans listen to. But I'm gonna be the Cliff Notes side of things. So wrestling originally started, what we consider professional wrestling, early 50s, was in a carnival. Strongman, Bulk Hogan, he would be unbeatable, and you'd have people in the crowd who would bet to say, "Oh, local guy, he'll beat him," but it was all staged. That guy from the crowd was in on it, and that's kind of how it began. And that side of things for professional wrestling. But when you take a step back, there are some very famous wrestlers who have come from the non-pro wrestling background into it, like Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medalist, who won his medal with a broken freaking neck. You've got Otis, he won the Olympic gold with a broken neck, and that actually is why he was called the gold medalist, and his entire theme was, I'm the Olympic hero, I'm the one who's going to win. Had one of the best intro songs, but problem is, you suck, you suck, you suck. That overtook him. He eventually embraced that. But wrestling, again, you've got it's actually technically a mixed martial art nowadays. You've got jiu-jitsu, you've got, of course, boxing, professional wrestling itself. You've got different generations of that. You've got lucha libre, which is Mexico and Spanish-speaking countries. The mask, the flips, the high-flying attitude. You've got your strong style, which, if you ever want to watch a really good match, watch a Japanese death match. They will literally beat each other with everything: barbed wire, fluorescent bulbs. Japan, very hard. There's been a few times.
Japan's hardcore. Okay, sure.
Yeah, well, listen, when you look at wrestling, you've not just got pro wrestling. You've got essentially what's called ECW, or Extreme Championship Wrestling, which is deathmatch and hardcore matches. Lucha Libre, where the whole point is, again, it's wrestling, but they're a bit more active. They do a lot of flipping maneuvers, as much as it makes me sound like an arsehole. But I'm a staunch believer in pro wrestling, as you've got a lot of stuff that you can do. You see some wrestlers who have come from different backgrounds. You've had Goldberg, who was a professional football player. His entire gimmick was big. He would hit you with a spear, which if you got hit by the spear, you ain't getting back up. You got Brock Lesnar, who transitioned from pro wrestling into MMA and then back into pro wrestling, and he's become the beast incarnate. God, watching him from the early 2000s, he looked so different. He had worse hair than I do.
Oh no!
Yeah, he's like, find the 2000, seriously, look up early 2000s Brock Lesnar. He had like small little cut here and everything gone there. But that's the thing, going back to it, professional wrestling, it's still wrestling because you still got to, you've got to do the flip, you've got to do the grabs, you've got to do the throws. But it's not a contact in a way of it's like stage fighting. I mean, every theatre.
Yeah, it's stage combat.
It's stage combat, but
it's not meant
the way
to
they do it makes it look so real.
But they do take real ass damage.
I mean, there was Cesaro, a really great Swiss wrestler. He went into a turnbuckle, the corner, and his front teeth went up through his face because he landed awkwardly. Yeah, yeah. There's. We're going to cycle back to it.
I remember hearing a story of Vince McMahon jumping onto the fucking ring and just destroying both of his quads when jumping into the ring because he hit his legs on the edge of it and just fucking tore both of them. And so he just couldn't fucking stand.
Yeah, it was. I think it's the 2005 Royal Rumble where Batista and John Cena both went over. And if you know who you obviously know who Batista is. I mean, he's Drax the Destroyer. And you should know Big Match John Cena.
He's in Marvel movies now. Yeah, we know him.
Yeah. And they said, you watched it, they both went over at the same time.
Famously known for his role in Free Guy as Dude.
Yeah. Oh, good old Vinnie Mac. He's also in the news recently for something that's not so good. Apparently having an affair with one of his staff members. His wife's left him. So if anyone wants some money, hit up Linda McMahon on Tinder. Yeah, wrestling isn't as glamorous as I'm going to make it out to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Most things aren't.
Yeah, no, I mean, wrestling is, by nature, it's entertainment. And yes, people say, wrestling is wrestling and sports entertainment are different. It's
not really.
It's apples and oranges. Fundamentally the same. It's apples and apples. It's the same thing, just one's a Granny Smith, one's a Red Delicious.
I was about to actually say, one's Granny Smith, one's... I mean, I'll skip the Red Delicious, but I'll partake in that Granny Smith. You put a Fuji or Blessed Apple in front of me? Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm taking those bad boys.
I'll take a Fuji. I'll take a Fuji. Hey, earlier you said a word, kayfabe?
Kayfabe, yes. Now...
Is that Korean fabulous wrestling?
No. So
it should be, though. I'd watch that.
So...
For the plot.
Kayfabe is essentially the fourth wall. So...
Yeah. Okay.
The best way to explain it is... Say, I was actually doing a 2K22 series where I had myself, Tim, Darien, and another female kind of feuding with DJ's team, which was himself, AJ, Melody, and Michelle. Again, people who may be into it. But here's the thing: if this was real, we would not be doing this here. We would be, if for kayfabe, we would be against each other. Like, we wouldn't be on the scene in the same bus. We wouldn't be on the same plane. If you are a masked superstar, you have to wear your mask because that is who you are. But kayfabe itself...
Okay, so it's what happens outside of the ring, but it's still the wrestling.
But another good example for it as well is for, say, injuries or relationships. So there was a good example of that with, where was it? Kane and Undertaker. They were the brothers of destruction. But in reality, Undertaker, of course, big scary guy, dead, rest in peace. And then you have Glenn Jacobs, who, funny enough, is called the Big Red Machine because he was big, red, sworn of hellfire. But he's a Republican mayor in Knoxville, Tennessee. So he technically is a red machine of some description.
Okay.
They were always supposed to be brothers. And those two were supposed to be seen as brothers in story. In reality, no, they're not related. But at the same, when you're watching it, you grow up with that. You think, oh, the brothers of destruction. Yeah, they're family. But that's when it kind of ended badly for some wrestlers, which I'm actually going to talk about now, which was known as the curtain call incident, which is kind of the start to when Triple H and everyone started, well, the day the music died really would be the best example of that.
Okay.
we're all 90s kids, aren't we? To start.
No,
correct?
not at all.
Well, no, DJ's not. He was born in 99.
Oh, so you're the end of the 90s. So
he's no perception of the 90s.
Yeah.
No.
So during the 90s to the 2000s, there's what we would call the Monday Night Wars, which was WWE versus WCW, which was Vincent McMahon versus Ted Turner. During this time, wrestlers were jumping ship to see the grass was always greener.
Mm-hmm.
So in April of 1996, two of the biggest stars of WWE, Scott Hall, who tragically recently passed, and Kevin Nash, were jumping ship. During this time, you had Shawn Michaels and Paul Levesque, also known as Triple H, were part of this group called The Clique. They were, they were a clique. They were the top guys. They were, you don't hang out with us, you're not on our level, go away.
We wear pink on Wednesdays, yep.
Yeah, they were mean girls.
Yeah.
Let's wait up. So, in May, at Madison Square Garden, this is the WrestleMania of events. Like, you perform at Madison Square, you've made it after WrestleMania. So, there's a steel cage match between Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall. Now, during this time, Triple H and Kevin Nash were villains. They would not be seen with each other. But, in reality, really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, the match ended. Shawn Michaels won, and he embraced Scott Hall, friends, they were hugging. Then after that, out come Kevin Nash and Triple H. They come out, they all hug each other. Now, during the 90s, we didn't have smartphones or anything like that. Some guys smuggled in a camcorder and recorded it. That was the day that the curtain was called. Kayfabe was gone. Because back then, people would just be attacking everyone for what they were believing.
Uh-huh.
So Vinnie Mac found out. Now, Hall and Nash, they were long gone. They were jumped. They jumped ship. They were not under contract. And you wouldn't want to disrespect your top guy, would you? So Shawn Michaels got off scot-free. But that left Triple H. He basically was supposed to be riding the card up. He was going to be the next big main top guy. But because of that, his career was in shatters. Because he broke the cardinal sin. He broke it. He broke kayfabe.
He did it backstage. That's not fair.
Oh, it wasn't. And that's why in 1996, we had, to be fair, a better run with Stone Cold Steve Austin 316, which, again, one of the best promos ever done. Because it's like, you talk about your Bible. It's like Austin 316 says, I just whooped your ass. Very passionate, and that's why I love him. But that was the end, which would have been the end of Triple H. He was the next big guy. But he basically got around it. He shacked up with his daughter, with Vincent's daughter. He is now a top leader in the company. That one event cost his career years of progression. But, again, swings and roundabouts. He got probably a much better career later on.
So I have a quick kayfabe question. Is the would that same thing play out the same way today? Would if
Oh god, no.
No, so it was I'm trying to figure out. So in the 90s. Okay, so was the that moment it was a problem because at that point in time the notion of kayfabe was not so ingrained in the culture of experience. Like you, the audience today, you know of kayfabe. You get that this isn't real. It's a show, but you're invested in the show. You're invested in the story. Whereas in the 90s, it was played at face value at all times. The audience wasn't quote unquote like in on not the joke, but they weren't in on it.
They weren't. Yeah, exactly. Well,
okay, so
we're now in what we call the reality era, where you've got social media and you can see, like, especially now with the modern era, which is what another time we'll talk about, which is the parallels between now and then, which is the AEW versus WWE standpoint in America, especially in the US market. Mm-hmm. A lot of superstars from one are still friends with the other. Take Austin Creed, who leads the Up Up Down Down YouTube channel. He used to team with Chugs, Adam Cole, Claudio, aka Cesaro, and a lot of those guys have now jumped to AEW. But yet they still support each other. Like, it's like, I play, it's like playing for a football team. Like, you're still friends with each other, but, we're going to compete, yeah. But deep down, you're like, yes, my friend won. Yeah, he scored that goal. You're still, it's...
There's an understanding today that these are coworkers and cast members who are playing characters that sometimes will bleed out into outside of the ring because there's like a multimedia aspect of these engagements and interaction. But there's also this understanding of like, but if you see them getting lunch together, don't freak out. Like, we all know it's a game, kind of. But it's like people's careers. I don't mean to say like as dismissively as a game, but like, you know.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's, again,
okay.
You've got fans who are the whole, oh, wrestling's still real to me, damn it. It's like, yes, we know it's real. But in the same way, a Marvel movie's real. You know, the good guy's going to always win in the end, but it's the story that progresses it. I've seen... Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge follower at the moment of... I don't know his name. He was... well, it's funny enough, I was actually going to talk about him, which is Daniel Bryan, later on. I stopped watching wrestling all the time during high school when one of my heroes had to leave due to neck injury. He was Adam Copeland, or known as Edge. So this is why it's fascinating. This is what we're going to bring into the fascination side. But he came back 9 years after a career-threatening injury at number 20 in the Royal Rumble. That moment itself, you know, I still get shivers up my spine just hearing the intro to his song, which is "You Think You Know Me," the drums, and then Metalingus' Alter Bridge. There he is, standing there. Everyone's screaming his name. Everyone's cheering, and he stands there. He's been gone 9 years, but everyone still remembers the Edge they grew up with. And watching him come back, and again, it's hard to explain to someone who's never watched wrestling, because you've got to find that person you like. Which is why I gave each of you the comment. Like I said, for you, Darien, I gave you Paige, or in this case, Florence Pugh, and DJ, I gave you Kenny Omega, because they're people, if you can get behind one of them, and you see them from start, it's like picking your favourite horse to win the race. Every time that horse wins, you like gets that extra step further. You feel the emotion, you get that feeling of this is going to work. That's why I absolutely adore watching, well, I watch NXT more than I watch the main roster stuff, because you see these up-and-comers, they kind of like, okay, I like that guy, what's he going to do? I take Zion Quinn, he's a former football star, and yet here he is in pro wrestling. You think, he's not going to jail, but he is performing phenomenally for what he's doing. He's only been in the wrestling business for about just over a year now, but he's phenomenal. And it just gets me passionate inside when you're watching these people. Like, you say, oh my god, he's going to do it. Doesn't win the title, you get dejected, but then you think, oh no, it's going to be, he's going to have to win sometime, but you just got to get behind him. You've got to give him the support. You've got to cheer, which is bringing into probably one of the greatest wrestling moments for WWE of Daniel Bryan. So he is another Canadian. He was in the indie circuits as the American Dragon. He was amazing. He eventually got the big break in NXT, in the original NXT, and he came in later on. He had basically the fans behind him. He was beloved. He would do whatever he took. He was one of those ones like, he's a plucky underdog. He's going to win. He won the title, lost it in 6 seconds at Mania, and then he came back strong. Yeah, it was a bro kick from Sheamus, or Fella. He used to be the former bodyguard for Bono. He's a big pasty Irish guy. Finisher, kick to the face.
Well, with a name like Sheamus, I would hoping he's a big pasty Irish guy.
Yeah. Kick to the face. That's a fucking Karate Kid, Cobra Kai dojo bullshit. All right, sure. Kick him in the face, whatever.
You should watch some of the Japanese wrestlers. Some of them are amazing about the memes they have about them. Will Ospreay with the JoJo meme, or the Dark Souls boss thing. But
I think I've seen a few of them. They're pretty solid.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan got into the ring one day, and this is when he had like the goat beard and the long hair. He was like, everyone's behind him, and his theme music, funny enough, is Ride of the Valkyries by Wagner. So eventually got to the point where the fans would start cheering, yes, 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 and no matter what, you got behind it, because it would just, that music, just hearing them all chant yes, just him coming down the ring. They overtook the ring itself. These are just fans just jumped the barricade. This was maybe a good 30, 40 people. There's no way security could handle them all. Yeah. And they just cheered Daniel Bryan. He stood up to the authority. He got his shot at WrestleMania saying, look, Triple H, if you can beat me, you can go against Randy and Batista. He won. And then comes the triple threat. You think, you know he's going to win. But you just watch it. All those near falls, they're so close. He wins, and both belts, and everyone's just cheering Daniel Bryan. Just the yes chants erupted everything. I can still remember that moment, and I love watching it. I love those bittersweet moments. But then...
Oh no, not but then!
He had to retire. Because his finisher was a flying headbutt.
Dude, so that's not sustainable.
That is super nice.
Even in stage combat, that's not sustainable.
So I was trying to think. Here's the thing. You said football player. I was trying to think as to whether or not it was soccer or American football.
Yeah, it's American football.
Okay.
I mean, to clarify, from now on I'll call it gridiron because that's a much better name than football.
And actually is like, yeah, that's just cooler.
Well, I think soccer's a better name than football too. Go fuck yourself.
No, that's the truth. No one. Listen, I also agree with that. I think soccer also sounds cooler for a sport. So no one uses football anymore because it's not a good name. It's really boring, and everyone calls it either soccer or gridiron or whatever other languages you use. But that's just, they are both objectively they sound more, they just sound cooler.
It sounds more
all around. It just sounds more soccer, football. No, why are we doing this?
Yeah, but I sent you. I obviously remember sending you the video, which was he's there in the ring. He's saying that he has to retire, and it was the fight for your dreams. If you fight for your dreams will fight for you. You could feel the emotion because he was saying. His wife, who was behind, it's like they went to a specialist and said, "Oh, you can never do it again." And he's like, "Oh, this is my life. This is my career." Then his wife goes, No. Go see another one. No. Don't listen to him. See another one." And he did. And he saw multiple specialists. And then eventually he got his in-ring return. And he had a brilliant comeback. And then he became the first champion. He's a vegan, but he became the villainous vegan. Like, oh, you've got a plastic cup. No! I'm going to smack that out your hand. You're eating a hot dog? That's got meat in it. I'm going to smack you in the face. Yeah, Vincent Kennedy McMahon does not have good ideas for wrestlers. Well, with the exception of John Cena, Hustle, Loyalty, Respect, and the Doctor of Thugonomics.
Yeah. You get two good ones, it sounds like, and then you're tapped out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a businessman. Yes, he's hit stunners. He actually is a pretty good wrestler. He wrestled against Pat McAfee at WrestleMania this year, and that was fun seeing him come back and then get hit by the stunner by Stone Cold.
Term definitions. I think we need to throw for the audience. We need to just define a couple terms real quick. I think WWE, that's just part of pop culture. You kind of know what that means. I think you know WrestleMania the same way you know Splash Mountain, right? It's just kind of like even if you're not a fan of Disney or theme parks, you know it. But could you define WrestleMania in terms of like its importance to wrestling fandom?
Again, this is purely from the WWE standpoint.
Okay.
There's what we call the Big Five. The Royal Rumble, which is done the start of the year, which is the start of the wrestling calendar. You've got WrestleMania, which is, to quote the Scooby-Doo wrestling movie, you can't cancel WrestleMania. It's like cancelling Christmas. It is the grandest stage of them all. Every wrestler, at least in the E, wants to be a main event at WrestleMania. That's when you make your dream. You then got Money in the Bank, which I just watched yesterday, which had some really good matches. You've got a new women's champion of Liv Morgan, Austin Theory. Don't really like him, but I can see where it's going. You get SummerSlam, which is the biggest party of the summer, which is the end of this month.
Okay, this month, as in when we are recording now, because if you want to take a glance behind the kayfabe, not when this episode will air in 2023, I'm thinking.
We'll see it when we see it.
We'll see it when you see it. All right, now back to
then you've got Survivor Series, which originally was SmackDown versus Raw, the two brands versing each other, which is great because you get to see the two men's champions, the two women's champions, the tag team champions. Then you got the traditional 5v5. So that's always been a great event. So you get you basically have team captains. They pick 5 men. You get the women who pick 5 women. Men, women. They don't really do intergender matches, although recently they have done with what they call the Mixed Match Challenge. Because going back to it, the 90s, 80s and 90s and early 2000s, women were just sex objects in the Fed.
This doesn't surprise me, but But as a comic book fan, I can't trash too much. I mean, I can and I will, but like as a comic book fan, remembering how female characters were treated in the 80s and 90s, yeah, no, I'm not surprised. Yeah. Go on.
And that's when, again, that's why I brought you with the Page film, because she led what they call the women's evolution, where women finally started getting the same level as men. But you had the four horsewomen, which is Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, whose cousin is Snoop Dogg, and Bayley. They became the four horsewomen. These were the four biggest women's wrestlers who started. And then you get people like Ronda Rousey coming in, who's, UFC gold. She comes in, and that's when women are finally getting a fair shot. And
good.
I mean, I'm going to say this right now. As a man watching women's wrestling, it can be a bit awkward because you've got to watch, it's the outfits and everything. I mean, even Saudi Arabia, God, the matches in Saudi Arabia were amazing. And of course, Saudi Arabia being very, very conservative.
It's Saudi Arabia, yeah.
Yeah. Watching them still put on an amazing show, it was something that you just... I remember watching the 90s where, you didn't want your mum to watch you bra and panties matches, spanking matches. Yeah, it was entertainment for men. But watching it now, like, there's so many women that young girls can get behind, and I honestly would say, even if you don't think you're gonna like it, just listen to their story, listen to what they've done. Like Beth Phoenix, she was inspiration. Is Wonder Woman. She is the Glamazon. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because I may have been I may have been binge watching some of the older episodes. I'm just because I want to refresh myself. I just listened to the dated Wonder Woman episode you guys had, like from 2021, and I was just thinking
that was a fun one.
Yeah, it's like throwback. It's like
shit.
It's a shame.
That was chaos.
Like, I just remembered Wonder Woman, like the Glamazon. She is an amazing wrestler. She was beautiful, but yet she could knock you out. She can knock you out. Her finisher was called the Glam. Was literally called the Glam Slam.
Yeah.
And she came back last WrestleMania with Edge, and she came out with like the Viking mohawk, like ferocious fighting animal. It was a beautiful match, and I marked out so hard just seeing them come back, husband and wife fighting against another husband and wife, and it's just like, in a way, romantic, but at the same time, it was like she retired, she's come back. I don't care about the storyline. This is one of my favorite women wrestlers because she was beautiful, but yet she was able to throw a punch, and that's what she did. And any young girl, for the love of God, please look up some of her matches. Just watch that women can, especially for people in the current situation of the world. People need heroes. I think he's worthy of being a hero, especially for a lot of young female wrestlers. Also, Kid Bandit.
Also,
passionate.
I think that's a really good transition into one thing that I know DJ and I both wanted to talk about, which is like, how does one get into wrestling, especially if it's not something that your family's already into, that your friends are introducing you to, that you just missed out on. But before you tell us that, can you tell us how you got into wrestling and how you've stuck with it for so long, even after you said not watching for a while because your favorite wrestler left and then getting back into please, maybe we should have done this at the top. That's on me. Sorry, gang. I got excited. Share with us your journey through this. Like, what is this to you? Why do you love it so much that you're willing to come here and interrupt our recording to teach us about wrestling?
Well, vaguely remembering it was the early 90s. I was with my friend Harry. We were watching Monday Night Raw, and this was the Attitude Era where, it was like, you would swear, you'd have violence. And there was a wrestler for me that really got me into it, which is, funny enough, the same guy with the pop vinyl I have, Eddie Guerrero. He has the gimmick of Latino heat. He would lie, he would cheat, he would steal. He's skirting the line between good and bad. Like, if he had the opportunity, he would take it. One of my favorite memories of him, it's also a tragic one as well, was one of the WrestleManias he won. He beat Brock Lesnar and his friend, who, for sake of wrestling, please watch the Dark Side of the Ring episode on it, because it is such a tragic story. It's just Chris Benoit. He was this rabid Wolverine, this small Canadian guy. He and Eddie were friends through WCW and to then. They were brothers. They would they loved each other to bits. You could see it when they were in matches. And Eddie's victory at WrestleMania where he beat Brock Lesnar. He was amazing. He would win. He won in such a great way, and he finally won gold. And then he died of a heart attack not that long later.
Damn.
And then it came to Chris Benoit, his friend. This is going to be a trigger warning for everyone who doesn't know. Mm-hmm. He murdered his son and wife and hung himself.
Jesus.
Which, I said, dark side of the ring. It's not as glamorous as it looks. But that moment there, he concussed himself. He was addicted to painkillers. That's, for me, wrestling. When I heard about that, I couldn't believe it. I saw these people as heroes, as people you can't beat. You watched Big Mac John Cena come back at Royal Rumble for 2008, which was WrestleMania 24. He had been gone through injury. At number 30, he came back. These were people who I believed you could not beat, who were strong, who were godlike. And then that's for me when, again, the music died. Mm-hmm. I've always loved wrestling because I have this vision of wanting to be that guy. I want to be the main event. That's, for me, what keeps me watching it, because I find a little bit of myself in these people, which is why I interrupted you with Chris Jericho, because I loved him growing up. He came from WCW to WWE. He was the small cruiserweight. Like back in the 90s, if you weren't 6 foot tall, muscles, or black, you wouldn't get anywhere because you were a big guy, small guy. Yeah. But that small guy came in. He was the first undisputed champion. He had the gift of the gab. He had the mouth. He had the Raw is Jericho. He had the people behind him, and that's what we need. We need people like that. We don't need big, angry guys. We need people who are quick, who are flippy, able to take people down, the man of 1,000 holes. I mean, I could talk for hours about wrestlers that I loved and still do to this very day, and it's, for me, you want to find that person to get behind, who you see in yourself, that you can say, hey, I want to be like this guy. Mm-hmm. And you want to get into it. And if you want to get into wrestling, indie shows are a really good way to go. My recommendation is just jumping on, if you want to watch if you want to watch the WWE, NXT is pretty good. I mean, I'm a UK guy, so NXT UK is a much better show. I mean, for America, you've actually got a lot of indie shows around. You've got Ring of Honor, you've got Impact, you've got AEW. And you've got indie shows, especially in New Zealand, where I currently live. I actually tried out not that long ago to be a wrestler at Impact Pro Wrestling. Nice. I couldn't make it due to physical ailments. I'm slightly paralyzed in my legs, so I could not keep up with a lot of people.
I would imagine, that would be a bit of an obstacle. Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I'm really sorry. That sucks, man.
Oh, no. It did defeat me a little bit. But then again, you got the gift of the mouth. You could be a manager. You could be an announcer. I still have opportunities. And again, you find that person you want to get behind and you support them for everything. You'll fall in love with it. Like with people with comic books. People like say, oh, I love Batman or I love Superman. They only read those things. Wrestling, in a way, is like a comic book. You find your hero or you find your villain and you fall in love with them. And well, don't fall in love with some of them because there's the jabroni Hulk Hogan.
But maybe just follow their narrative.
Yeah, you follow the narrative. You watch them from being prototype to the Doctor of Thugonomics to hustle, loyalty, respect John Cena. You watch him from start to finish. You watch him every time you hear it's John Cena. Do, 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 do. You mark. Classic. You freak out. You scream like, again, Edge at Royal Rumble. We were sitting there, the three of us. It was like, who's it going to be? Number 20. You think you know me? The Metalingus Alter Bridge. I literally was on the floor just screaming. I'm nearly 30 and I lost my shit seeing Edge come back.
Nice.
And I loved it. I will always love that moment.
I feel like that, hearing you talk about wrestling and all this stuff, I feel like the comic book comparison or like the Marvel movie comparison we're making is a really fair comparison because you sound like me talking about why I like these things. You sound like me explaining why I liked Miss Marvel, because from the comics when I started reading it, it's because she's a lot of things about her are great and inspiring and optimistic, but for me, as a young woman who's into fandom stuff, seeing this young woman in the comics who was in the fandom stuff and got to be a superhero, that's what connected with me and I kept following. Or as the kayfabe, the knowledge of like those inner workings of story and plot, and how like knowing someone was gone from an energy and seeing them come back for those like reasons that weren't in the ring, and how that contributes to the enjoyment reminds me of at San Diego Comic-Con when Natalie Portman walked onto the stage during the Thor Love and Thunder panel, and Taika Waititi gave her Mjolnir. And I lost my fucking mind because I love the mighty Thor. I loved Jane Foster wielding Mjolnir. That is one of my favorite comic book arcs of all time.
That is the same feeling that it's a mutual feeling, because you're like, oh my god, this happens. It blows your mind, and it's that returning moment, or that big upset. You get that emotion. You feel happy. Yeah. You just want to go, oh my god, it's happening.
It doesn't matter that it's not real, because it is to the feelings and the investment. It can go to a point where that's unhealthy. All things can, but it's really you in that moment. Seeing fucking Jane Foster as the mighty Thor in that first trailer, I screamed. My roommate had to message me and make sure I was okay. And I was like, yes, true story. Lucy had to check on me. Fair, considering other things going on, just making sure Darien's actually all right. I was just so goddamn excited to see the mighty Thor with the helm and how good she looked. And I'm like, that's my girl.
Oh, so, she's amazing.
I think I can get behind the wrestling thing if it's like the comic book thing. Yeah. DJ, you got anything you want to project?
I don't have anything nearly as like passionate being like, oh man, that, right?
You're just so level all the time.
Yeah, I'd say the closest thing to it is the sequel to the Avatar. Avatar Age of Water, like Frontier, like what is it, Way of Water or some shit like that?
Way of Water.
Here's the thing though, right? Is there was a game that came out shortly after the movie came out. Mm-hmm. And I fucking loved that game. That game was sick as shit.
Uh-huh.
It was like a Wii game. Like looking back, I bet it probably doesn't hold up.
What the fuck?
It probably doesn't hold up, right? But
man,
it was
Wii game.
Fun.
I thought it was a fucking PC game this whole time you've been telling me about it.
There's a new one coming out that's coming out this year. I'm very excited for it. But yeah, the very first Avatar game that I played was a Wii game. Probably doesn't hold up. But also, plenty of Wii games hold up, Darien. You can't just say, oh, it's a Wii game. Of course it doesn't hold up. I would argue Red Steel still holds up to this day. Red Steel, Wii Sports Resort, Wii Play.
Oh, hold on. Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort feel like they're the same goddamn
They are
game.
not. They are absolutely
two
not.
different games, Darien.
Different uses.
This is not what this episode is about. This is not what the episode is about. Name three more.
Made it about this, Darien. You're the one who badmouthed the Wii. All right.
No, I wasn't bad mouthing. No, there's lots of good. I just meant like it's a movie. It's based on a movie. Like
that was Darien's heel turn right there.
Right.
It's because I bad mouthed.
You want me to list? You want me to list licensed games based off of series that are good? Because I'll fucking do that too.
Can you? That's what honestly was my point. I was thinking like Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, Sorcerer's Stone was honestly kind of banger. I like Sorcerer's Stone, the first one.
No, that was good. That was on the Wii.
SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom.
I can't.
The Legend of Korra game. You started this, Darien.
The Legend of Korra game is very good. You are absolutely right.
It's a fucking amazing game made by a killer company.
Here's my question though: these weren't Wii exclusives. You just happened to play the Avatar game on the Wii. I think is the thing I got hung up on.
Avatar.
We need to leave. We can't do this.
No. James Cameron Avatar the game has nothing to do with the movies. It is set in the same. It has the same setting. Nothing to do with these movies. Not even the same story.
Should we do?
You don't even play as like the Guy McDude.
Jake Sully.
Guy McDude. You're gonna tell me that he has the fucking character outside of Soldier without legs?
DJ, you love Avatar the movie.
I don't know why, but I do. I wouldn't be able to tell you why I love this movie.
I mean, it was a CGI masterpiece.
It absolutely is. Visually stunning, right? Like amazing, just hugely and wildly successful. Still the highest grossing movie to this day.
Wasn't it beaten by Endgame?
Yeah, because they re-released it in China. No. It did get beat by Endgame, and then they re-released it in China. Connor, if DJ was a wrestler, do you think he could have a pretty decent story arc as being one of the Na'vi?
I genuinely think he could. I would. The thing is, being so weird wrestling gimmicks. You've got Doink the Clown. You've got the Hurricane. You had the Gobbledygooker.
I wouldn't go
Giant
into
turkey.
fucking wrestling under the Avatar banner. Are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I had as I said, I had Darien as essentially a bootleg hunter of Artemis. She came in like a wolf jacket. She was this actress. You were this big indie guy. So if you ever want to get the chance, look up John Morrison's intro. Just the hand thing and the fireworks. The song by Jim Johnson is called "Ain't No Make Believe." I was like, yeah, that could kind of suit the big Johnny Nitro, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact, Johnny Elite. He's a good guy.
Right. We have referenced this us as wrestlers thing a couple of times. Connor, will you please tell the listeners what the fuck are you talking about?
So I have a very small YouTube channel, which...
But it's not going to be small for long, because all of you are going to go subscribe to it.
Yeah, thank you guys. But it is... I had a series of WWE 2K22, which is called the My Rise mode, which was the character. I had myself being this indie darling who had just come from these independent circuits to go through there. I had Darien here as a former actress, and her entire idea was, oh, she's done with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. She wants to be a real person. She wants to be real. I had our mutual friend Tim, who's also been on this podcast before. He was a disgraced UFC fighter who's like, nah, I don't want to do MMA anymore. I want to get into wrestling. And essentially a kind of mutual-ish acquaintance. He was a former athlete. In doing so, I made these entire intricate backstories of all the characters, like what I envisioned them as wrestlers. And I had DJ essentially be my rival. Indie story of us both being in the indies. One of us got signed, the other one didn't. I went to Japan. He went to Mexico to be more of a luchador. He came back and essentially beats me for the title, which I had just been a hard fought. Like, I've just beaten Tim, who was, the whole Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, I'm sorry, I love you. Super kick, 1, 2, 3. It ends, cheering, then all of a sudden you just hear DJ's entrance, just, ain't no make-believe, him standing there, fireworks going off, running in, hitting me with the ironically named beauty shot, hits me for the 1, 2, 3, takes my title.
Damn,
and that was
out of nowhere.
You're fucked.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the joke is the RKO out of nowhere, which you know it's going to happen with the Viper. Randy
yeah.
Randall Keith. Yeah. Which, funny enough, was actually Darien's finisher.
Hey! All right, where can our listeners find these videos?
Well, yeah, saying that series is currently on hiatus due to the fact my save has been deleted, so I've got to remake everything again.
Yeah, that's a nightmare.
3 days worth of 3 days worth of work. Titles, venue, everything was all custom made. I actually had a friend of mine, commissioned a friend to do the logos for essentially wrestling tees, which if I ever got enough people and I ran my own Patreon, I'd actually release these shirts at the icons on t-shirts.
That's really cool.
So that way it's like indie, wrestling-ish merch. If you wanted to go from there, but that was just something that I was looking into. Like I said, I'm a very small channel, and I don't mind being a shameful plug.
No, please. And remind our listeners exactly where they can find. Obviously, there's a link in the show notes. There always is. But just say it out loud.
I'm the Crystal Con Man on YouTube. I'm starting to stream as well on Twitch as well, but due to issues with internet where I live, I don't stream as much. But I do try to
in New Zealand. You live in Lord of the Rings land.
Hey, we don't talk about that.
Is that not a fun thing? I'm so sorry.
I've been to Hobbiton. It's a very beautiful place to be, but I'm more concerned with the fact that I'm from the same land as the Whale Rider, or once were warriors, Jake the Muzz, who also, fun fact, this is a weird segue to Star Wars, he was the original clone. Tamura Morrison was...
Hey, ooh, that guy's great.
Yes.
Big fan of that guy.
He is. He's amazing. But seriously, any wrestler want to watch a really good New Zealand film? Once were warriors, but it does tackle the New Zealand gang lifestyle, and there's a bit of domestic abuse. So if you are not a fan of that, don't watch it.
Skip that one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for crashing the podcast and making this episode fruitful. We do deeply appreciate it.
I will clean up the wall I came through. I'm no shockmaster.
Don't worry.
It's okay. It's fine. The cleaning harpies will handle it. That's their job. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You're good. It's fine.
That's good.
We prep for these kind of things.
The harpies are good for us.
Yep. They'll be excited to do something different than just clean up Mountain Dew voltage cans. It's a new project for them.
Hey. I don't appreciate that.
Well, was that directed at you?
I really don't need this from you. Just because I have
Darren's
a
playing
whole
the
12
role
pack,
very well, guys.
maybe even a fucking 12 packs worth of cans in my area, I don't appreciate the call.
When Nana was over the other day, she literally cleaned up your desk space.
Yeah, I fucking figured. Because she left this trash thing next to my desk.
Yeah, she did. She told me she did that too. All right, I think before I make a complete, absolute, permanent heel turn to become the villain of my own podcast forever, we need to wrap it up. But Connor, hey, man, thank you so much for coming all the way from New Zealand. We do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
One day hopefully one day I'll be touring America myself and going for that gold.
That would be
Hell
kick-ass.
Undisputed Universal Champion, mate. You watch.
Well, I'm here hoping for you, bud.
Usually we go to the big house, but I believe another wrestling term is to put over. Connor, is there anything you want to put over?
Well, I'd like to put it over my own channel, which is, again, youtube.com/TheCrystalConman. Again, I'd like to put you guys over. Thank you for having me, because you guys, as I said, I may be a patron, and I'm paying.
Yeah, as a God tier level patron, there's a comment.
Yeah, I will gladly support what you guys are doing, because you guys have. As much as I only listen to you guys every day I go to work. I drive to and from work. It takes me about maybe 20 minutes. I listen to the podcast. And it just makes it feel like a house at home.
Oh, nice. Thanks, man. That's really nice to hear. Aw.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the point of the show where I would tell you, lovely listeners, when the next episode is, but haven't actually made that schedule at the time of recording. So I'll just say thank you all so much for listening. We will be back in your ears in 2 weeks on Tuesday. But until then, don't be like Zeus.
Don't be like Zeus.
Don't be a dumb son of a bitch like Hulk Hogan. I mean Zeus.
Muses of Mythology is created and hosted by Darien and DJ Smartt. It's edited by Darien Smartt. The show is produced by Darien and DJ Smartt, as well as
Tim O'Connor.
The Crystal Con Man.
Our music is Athens Festival by Martin Hain. And our cover art is by Audrey Miller. You can find her on Instagram at bombshellnutshellart.
Want more Muses of Mythology? Support the show on Patreon. Just $1 gets you exclusive bonus content. Get more at patreon.com/Muses of Mythology.
You can also support the show by leaving a review at lovethepodcast.com/Muses of Mythology. Or tell a friend why you love the show.
Don't forget to check out all of our episodes and episode transcripts at musesofmythology.com.
Thanks for listening.